Good morning and welcome to the order of Monday morning. I hope everybody had a good weekend. I guess it's pretty wild and crazy in the Midwest and lots of wild weather happening, but it's something we must expect now, mustn't we? Uh, anyway, I've been doing the exercises in my own book, which which I guess is good publicity for, or a good recommendation because they're really good, I think anyway, really good exercises. The book I'm talking about is uh, this one, the Terra Architect. But the exercises are even more fundamental than that and Kabbalistic, but uh, and our good friend Jeremy here at class has about made a video that actually incorporates the right synthesized musical notes with the colors and everything. And I've been going through that and literally uh, uh, creating the tarot cube of space. Uh, and you just take it one step at a time, and but it doesn't take very long before you just literally spit out all 22 cards where they belong, and that there's method to the madness and everything else. But it's a wonderful, wonderful, very short internal meditation. And like all meditative exercises that we do at class and things, I encourage people to take special note of any changes in dream patterns, uh, because at least it's been my experience that the first reaction to the I guess you could call it the readjustment or the lubrication of your psyche. Uh, it first shows uh, in a change in dream patterns, the intensity of dreams, the depth of uh, of dreams, the more accessibility to taking control in your dreams and stuff. And so I've been doing this exercise ever since I was writing the book, and I have been noticing a great deal of. I wake up every morning, Telcon says, "Wow, were my dreams vivid last night." And I was trying to think back where I had read in Crowley's works, where he mentioned something uh, very pertinent to that. And on my walk, it occurred to me to look in a little kind of it's like an extended essay, but it's a little tiny book called The Soul of the Desert that he wrote in the spring of 1914. Now he was visiting Algeria. He was traveling at that. So that's 10 years after the Book of the Law and several years after many of the holy books of Thelema, uh, which were channeled around 1907, I think. Uh, and I started to read it. The first little chapter in it's called The Journey. And it was very interesting. I was reading. I said, "Oh, I ought to share this with class sometime." But it wasn't toward it wasn't until I got sort of toward the end of the short little chapter that's exactly what I was thinking of. Okay, that's where that Crowley quote was rattling around. So I'm going to share that with you today for the Order of Monday Morning. The title of it is The Soul of the Desert by Aleister Crowley. I'm not going to read the whole thing, just chapter 1, The Journey. Dedicated to Soror Alta Via, the high road. Okay. And Alta Via was Rhea Luffingwell, okay, an Agape Lodge, California Agape Lodge member. And she and her husband, Roy, I believe they were both ninth degree OTOs, uh, uh, had a had a turkey farm, okay, and it was sort of out in the high desert area of California, and so he dedicated it to her, Rhea Luffingwell, a longtime member of Agape Lodge. Uh, and he starts it with an epigraph from Liber 65, uh, which he had channeled. I guess we could say he channeled the Class A's uh, about 1907, I believe. And the little quote is, I too am the soul of the desert. Thou shalt seek me again in the wilderness of sand. The journey. The soul is, in its own nature, perfect purity, perfect calm, perfect silence, and as a well springs from the very veins of the earth itself, so is the soul nurtured of the blood of God, the ecstasy of things. This soul can never be injured, never marred, never defiled, yet all things added to it for a time trouble it. And this is sorrow. To this, language itself bears witness, for all words which mean unhappy mean first of all disturbed, disquieted, troubled. The root idea of sorrow is the idea of stirring up. For many a year, man in his quest for happiness has traveled a false road. To quench his thirst, he has added salt in ever-increasing quantities to the water of life. To cover the ant heaps of his imagination, he has raised mountains, wherein wild beasts and deadly prowl. To cure the itch, he has flayed the patient. To exorcise the ghost, he has evoked the devil. The main problem of philosophy, how this began. The rishis, India. The rishis, 7 that sat on Mount Kailasha, and considered thus, answered that the soul became self-conscious, and crying, I am that, became two, even in the act of asserting it was one. We talk about this a lot when we talk about Kether wanting to become self-conscious and reflected itself in Hokmah and says, oh, that's what I am, but just wanting to become self-conscious, it became two, and then created three immediately, because now there was a difference between the one and the reflection. Oh, but I digress. This theory may be found not too remote from the truth by whoso returns to that tower upon the ramparts of the soul and beholds the city. But let us leave it to the doctors to discuss the cause of the malady, For the patients, it's enough to know the cure and take it. Abana and Pharpar, rivers of Damascus, are not worth the simplicity of the Jordan. The prophet has spoken. It is our concern now to obey. And so sweet and so full of virtue are these waters that the first touch thrills the soul with the sure foretaste of its cure. Doubt not, brother. Reason indeed may elaborate complexities. Are not these the very symptoms of the disease? Use but the rude common sense, heritage of a simpler and happier forefathers, that they have transmitted to thee by the wand. Genetics. Okay. The cure of disease is ease. The cure of dis-ease is ease. Of disquiet, quiet. Of strife, peace. And to attain horsemanship, the study of folios aids not, but the mounting of a horse. As best way to swim is to enter the water and strike out, so it is cool sense, not feverish reason, that says to attain quiet, practice quiet. There are men so strong of will, so able to concentrate the mind, to neglect the impressions that they do not wish to receive, that they can withdraw themselves from their surroundings, even when those are as multitudinous and insistent as those of a great city. But for the most part of men, it is best to begin in easier circumstances, to climb the mountain in fine weather before attacking it in a snowstorm. And yet the eager aspirant will answer, provided that the cure is complete, provided that the sickness does not return when the medicine is stopped. Ah, that were hard. So deep-seated is the malady that years after its symptoms have passed, it seizes on a moment of weakness to blaze out again. It is malarial fever that lurks low, that hides in the very substance of the blood itself, that has made the very fountain of life partaker with it the sacrament of death. Has a spider found out the communion cup? Was a toad in the christening font? No. The remedy cures sure enough, but not often does it cure once and for all beyond relapse. But it is simple, and once the symptoms have properly abated, they never return with equal force. And if the patient has but the wit to stretch out the hand for another dose, the fever dies. What is then the essential? To cure the patient once, to give him faith in the efficacy of the remedy, and so perchance he falls sick, no doctor is near, he may be able to cure himself. If thought then be that which troubles the soul, there is but one way to take. Stop thinking. It's the most difficult task that a man can undertake. Quote, "Give me a fulcrum for my lever," says Archimedes, "and I'll move the earth." But how, when one is within and part of the very system of motion which one has desired to stop? Newton's first law drops like a headsman's axe on the very name of our endeavor. Well for us that this is not true as it is obvious. For this fact saves us. that the resolution of all these is rest. The motion is but in reciprocal pairs. The sum of its vectors is zero. The knot of the universe is a fool's knot, for all it seems Gordian, but pull firmly and it ravels out. It is this seeming that is all the mischief. Gloomy is the gulf, and the clouds gather angrily in monstrous shapes. The false moon flickers behind them. Abyss upon abyss opens on every hand, darkness and menace, the fierce sound of hostile things. One glimmer of starlight, and behold the golden bridge. Narrow and straight, keen as a razor's edge, and glittering as a sword's blade, a proper bridge if thou leanest not to the right or left. Cross it. Good. But all this is in a dream. Wake. Thou shalt know that altogether gulf, moon, bridge, dragon, and the rest were but the phantasms of sleep. Howbeit, remember this, that to cross the bridge in sleep is the only way of waking. You knew I was going to come to a point here. Okay. I do not know if many men have the same experience as myself in the matter of voluntary dreaming, or whether of contest between the sought and the unsought in dream. For instance, I am on a ridge of ice with Oscar Echtenstein, that's his mountain climbing partner. He slips to one side, I throw myself to the other. We begin to cut steps to the ridge. My axe snaps, or is snatched from my hand. We begin to pull ourselves up to the ridge by a rope. The rope begins to fray. Luckily, it is caught lower down on the cleft of rock. A lammergeier swoops. To tell you the truth, I'm not sure what kind of beast that is. Probably a bird. I invent a pistol and blow its brains out. And so on through 1,000 adventures, making myself master of each event as it rises. But I am grown old today and weary of thrills. Nowadays, the first hint of danger, I take wing and sail majestically down to the glacier. If I have thus digressed, it is to superimpose this triangle on that of the task. Stop thinking. Simple as it sounds, and simple as it is, when you have mastery. In the meantime, it is apt to lead you far indeed from simplicity. I have myself written some million words in order to stop thinking. I have covered miles of canvas with pounds of paint in order to stop thinking. Thus may it be that I am at least to be considered as no mean authority on all the wrong ways, and so perhaps by a process of exclusion on the right way. Unfortunately, it is not as easy as this. There are 69 ways of constructing tribal lays, and every one of them is right. And right for A is often wrong for B. But luckily, the simpler goal is kept, but luckily, the simpler the goal is kept, the simpler are the means. Elsewhere in my writings will be found a fairly painstaking and accurate account of the process. The present essay is but to advocate a mighty engine adjunct, The shoulder of Hercules to the cartwheel of the beginner whose diffidence whispers that he is incapable of following those instructions in the difficult circumstances of ordinary life. Or the enthusiast who wisely determines, like Kirkpatrick, that to, and I'm not sure what kind of Scottish thing he's trying to say here, to make sicker. Make sicker? Please, the Scots out there, help me with what he's trying to say. M-A-K, and the next word is S-I-C-C-R. Well, anyway, indeed, the cares of this world, the deceitfulness of the riches, the lusts of the flesh and the eye, the pride of life, and all other enemies of the saint, do indeed choke the word, and it becometh unfruitful. Well, the essay will go on in the next chapter to address that. When I was a little kid, I never had too many nightmares or anything else, but most of them dealt with the fact that as I was laying in my crib, I was wondering where was I before I was awake like this, on like this, and I couldn't really picture myself off. Uh, but I did have sort of strange, sort of spooky, dark impressions of pre-existence. And uh, when I started to see uh, things on our early television, it was the first one on the block, that would sort of set the stage for nightmares. And I didn't have very many, but when I did, uh, my dad, uh, I remember him waking me up once and said, "Yeah, you're having a nightmare. Go ahead, wake up." And I said, "Oh, it was, and I didn't even want to lay my head back on the pillow where that dream was happening. And I said, I don't want to go back to sleep uh, because, I'll go right back to that thing that was trying to eat my foot." And he said, "No, no, you do want to go back." And he was very, very cheerful and positive. He says, "Because when you go back, you can fix it. When you go back, all you have to do is say, 'Get out of here.' You can't do that. He says, you want to go back into the disturbing dream and make it undisturbing because you have the power to do that. So go back to sleep. Go back there and take care of that monster." And that's what Crowley was describing there, sort of, too. Anyway, that's it. That's it for today. I think, I'm not sure if it's going to be Parking Lot Tuesday or a Parking Lot Wednesday this week, but we'll see. But tonight, there'll be Monday Night Magic class here in Sacramento. And because we haven't had one in 2 weeks. So I'm looking forward to that. We've got lots of fun things to do at class. I've just been invited to put on a little musical concert here in Sacramento up in September. I'll keep you posted on that because it seems like Beautiful venue, beautiful event, and very professional organizers. So stay tuned. Until tomorrow, continue to be good to yourself, be good to each other. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law, love under will.